My wife, 21 years younger, proposed a prenup to prove she loved me, but when her mother asked me to co-sign a loan, I discovered they hid clauses to void the agreement. So I offered my mother-in-law $100K, and she testified against her own daughter. I'm 52 years old. I'm the CEO of my own company, and if you ask me if I believe in love, I'd tell you I don't even know what to answer anymore. And what I'm about to tell you basically destroyed what little faith I had left in people, and honestly, I'm still struggling to process how someone can plan something like this with such coldness. I guess I should start from the beginning, or at least from the point where everything started going wrong, although looking back, I think it was never right from the start. Before all this, I'd already gone through a horrible divorce. My ex-wife, Tiffany, was with me for 2 years. 2 years where I thought we had something real, and one day she just told me she didn't want to be married to me anymore. She left and took an amount of money I'd rather not even remember. After that, I developed this thing about not trusting anyone, especially women who approached me, because when you have money, you never know if they're interested in you or your place. Bank account, you know what I mean? It's shit living like that, but it is what it is. I spent years alone, focused on my company, going out occasionally but not committing to anyone, because every time a woman showed interest in me, my brain automatically thought, okay, what does she really want? And then I met Amber. She worked at my company, in the marketing department, I think, and we started talking casually. She was 31 at the time, like 21 years younger than me, but it never seemed like a problem because she was mature, intelligent, and most importantly, she never asked me for anything. We started going out, like casual dates, coffees, dinners, nothing serious. This was like 4 years ago, more or less. The relationship was comfortable, no pressure, no expectations, exactly what I needed after Tiffany. Amber never mentioned my money, never asked for expensive gifts, paid her share when we went out, and I thought, wow, finally someone normal. About 6 months into seeing each other, rumors started at the office. You know how that is? People talk, gossip, and suddenly everyone knew the CEO was dating someone from marketing. It was awkward, honestly, because I always tried to keep my personal life separate from work, but Amber told me maybe it was time to make things official, to stop hiding. It made sense, I guess, so we made it official. I told people we were together. She eventually left her position to avoid conflicts of interest, and we moved forward. After a year of being officially together, Amber surprised me one night. We were having dinner at my house, something simple, pasta or something like that, and out of nowhere she said, "Lawrence, I want to marry you." Just like that, no preamble, no beating around the bush. I froze. I'm not gonna lie, because after Tiffany I had sworn never to get married again. I explained my fears to her, my insecurities, told her everything about my first marriage and how it had left me traumatized about money. And then, Amber did something no woman had ever told me before, something that basically sealed my fate. She looked me straight in the eyes and said, "Look, I understand your fears, and I don't want you to think I'm with you for your money, so let's sign a prenuptial agreement." She suggested it. She did, not me, not my lawyer, her. Can you believe it? In that moment, I thought I had found someone different, someone genuine. Because, who in their right mind suggests a prenup if they have bad intentions? It seemed like the ultimate proof that Amber loved me for who I was, not for what I had. So I agreed. We got married literally a week later. Something small, nothing elaborate, just us and a few close friends. And at first, everything was perfect. Her mother, Phyllis, moved in with us shortly after the wedding. She was like 60 years old, a pleasant woman, quiet, cooked amazing food, and I had no problem with her living with us. The house was big enough, we had plenty of space, and Amber seemed happy to have her mom nearby. We lived like that for several months, like a small family, and I honestly thought things couldn't be better. About a year into our marriage, Phyllis started looking for her own house. She said she didn't want to be a burden to us, that she wanted her own space, and it seemed reasonable to me. She found a place she liked, not too far from where we lived, and one day she came to me with some papers. She needed me to co-sign the house loan because, well, she didn't have enough credit or something like that. Amber was there when Phyllis asked me, and they both looked at me with those faces like, please help us. And I thought, she's my mother-in-law. She's my wife's mom. Why not? It was just signing some papers. It wasn't like I was losing anything. So I agreed. Phyllis brought me the documents, like a bunch of legal papers that honestly I didn't read very carefully because I trusted her. I trusted Amber. I trusted that we were family. I signed where they told me to sign, put my initials where they needed my initials, and that was it. Or so I thought. About a week later, I was in my office reviewing some company documents when my assistant brought me an envelope that had arrived by certified mail. I opened it without thinking much about it, expecting it to be something work-related, but no. It was a letter from a law firm I didn't recognize, informing me that there were changes to my prenuptial agreement. Changes to my prenup. I sat there reading that letter over and over, thinking it had to be a mistake, confusion, something, because I hadn't authorized any changes. I called my lawyer, Frederick, the same one who helped me with the Tiffany divorce, and sent him the letter. He called me back in less than an hour, and his voice sounded serious, like, I need you to come to my office right now. I went immediately. Frederick had the documents spread out on his desk, the papers from Phyllis's house loan, and he pointed to a section hidden in the middle of complicated legal clauses. Basically, there was a clause that said that by me co-signing that loan, I was agreeing to modify the prenuptial agreement so that Amber would be entitled to half my assets in case of divorce. It was all there, written in confusing legal language, but it was there. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach, like all the air had come out of my lungs at once. Frederick explained to me that this was fraud, that it was illegal, that no one could hide clauses like that in loan documents. But in that moment, I wasn't thinking about legalities. I was thinking about Amber, about how she had suggested the prenup, about how she had acted all this time, about how her mother conveniently needed me to sign those papers. Everything had been planned. Everything. From the beginning. I didn't go home that day. I couldn't. I stayed at the office until late, just sitting in the dark, processing what I had just discovered. When I finally got home, like 2 in the morning, Amber was asleep. I looked at her lying there, so peaceful, and thought about all the times she had told me she loved me, all the times she had sworn money didn't matter to her. It had all been a lie. The next day, I waited until both Amber and Phyllis were in the house. I walked into the living room where they were watching TV or something and told them, "You have 10 minutes to pack what you can carry and get out of my house." Amber looked at me confused, like, "What are you saying?" And I just repeated, 10 minutes, out. I didn't give them explanations. I didn't show them the documents. I didn't yell or make a scene. I just threw them out. Phyllis tried to ask me what had happened, but I didn't even look at her. I called security, because yes, my house has private security, and asked them to make sure these 2 women left the property. Seeing their faces of shock, confusion, maybe fear, gave me a satisfaction I probably shouldn't admit, but after what they had done, to me, I felt they deserved at least that. The next few months were a blur. Amber called me constantly, sent me messages, emails, showed up at my office trying to talk to me. I ignored everything. I blocked her number, told my assistant not to let her into the building, basically erased her from my life. Phyllis also tried to contact me a few times, but same thing. I completely ignored her. Frederick started divorce proceedings immediately, and I thought it would be quick, that Amber would sign the papers and that would be it. But no. She refused to sign unless I met with her in person. Frederick advised me to do it, that sometimes people need closure, and although I never wanted to see her again, I agreed, because I wanted to be done with this once and for all. We met at a restaurant, a public place, because I wasn't an idiot. I wasn't going to be alone with her. Amber arrived on time. She looked different, thinner, with dark circles under her eyes, like she hadn't slept well in months. She sat across from me, and before I could say anything, she started crying. She told me she was sorry, that she had never wanted to hurt me, that it had all been her mother's idea, that Phyllis had convinced her that this was the only way to secure her future, that I was so rich I would never notice the difference if she kept something. In case we got divorced, She blamed her mother for everything. For the hidden papers, for the plan, for the manipulation. She said she really loved me. That the prenup had been her genuine idea at first, but that later her mom had convinced her she was stupid for not securing something for herself. I listened to her without interrupting, just watching her act, because that's what it was, an act. When she finished her teary speech, she looked at me expecting me to say something, to forgive her maybe. But I just asked her, "Are you done?" And then she changed. The crying stopped almost instantly, and she told me she was willing to sign the divorce papers, but that she needed money. A specific amount. I don't remember exactly how much, but it was something ridiculous. Like several $1,000,000. I asked her why the hell she thought I would give her a penny after what she had done, and she answered, "Because if you don't give it to me, I'm going to say you cheated on me throughout our marriage, that you have mistresses, that you emotionally abused me, and even if it's a lie, do you want to deal with that public scandal?" She was extorting me. Right there, in that restaurant, with people around, she was literally extorting me. But it didn't end there. She also offered me an alternative, as if it were the most reasonable thing in the world. She told me, "Either you give me the money and I sign the divorce, or you don't give me anything and we stay married. You choose. Stay married." As if I would want to spend one more second legally tied to this woman. I got up from the table without saying anything else, and left. I called Frederick, from the car, and told him everything. He told me not to worry, that we had options, that this was clear extortion and we could use that against her. But I had another plan. Something I'd been considering since I threw them out of my house. I contacted Phyllis directly. I sent her a message from a number she didn't have blocked, asking her to meet with me. She accepted immediately, probably thinking I was going to give in to Amber's demands or something. We met at a coffee shop, and when I arrived, Phyllis had that fake smile that I could now clearly see for what it was. I didn't waste time. I told her I knew it had all been her and Amber's plan from the beginning, and that unless she wanted to end up in jail for fraud, she was going to help me. Phyllis tried to deny it at first, but when I showed her evidence of the fraudulent documents and explained that my legal team had already built a solid case against both of them, her face changed. I offered her a deal, something Frederick probably would have told me not to do, but I did it anyway. I told her that if she testified against Amber, if she gave me all the information about how they had planned this, I would pay for the house she supposedly needed and give her an amount of money to go away and never bother me again. Basically, I was buying her betrayal of her own daughter. And you know what? She accepted without even thinking about it much. That told me everything I needed to know about this family. Phyllis not only accepted, but gave me information I didn't even know. She told me that the rumors at the office at the beginning of my relationship with Amber hadn't been casual, that Amber herself had deliberately started them to force me to make the relationship official, that Amber had researched my divorce with Tiffany before even starting to date me, that she knew exactly what my insecurities were and had used them against me, that the prenup had been her idea from the start, yes, but only because they knew I would never get married without one, and that they already had it planned to reverse it somehow from before the wedding. Everything had been calculated, every step, every word, every action. I felt sick listening to her, literally sick, because it means nothing. I had lived through with Amber, had been real, not a single moment. It had all been an elaborate act to eventually take my money. And the worst part is, it had almost worked perfectly. If I hadn't reviewed those loan documents, if I hadn't had Frederick to explain what those hidden clauses meant, right now I'd be trapped in a divorce that would cost me millions. Armed with Phyllis's testimony and all the documents, we went back to court. The final hearing was surreal. Amber arrived with her own lawyer, a cheap one that was probably all she could afford. And when she walked into the room and saw her mother sitting on my legal team's side, her face was something I'll never forget. Confusion, betrayal, anger, all mixed in an expression that would have been comical if it weren't so tragic. My lawyer presented all the evidence, the fraudulent documents, Phyllis's testimony, and we had also gotten written testimonies from like 20 people who worked at my office, people who remembered how Amber had deliberately spread rumors about our relationship at the beginning. When it was Amber's turn to speak, or rather her lawyers, they basically had nothing. They tried to argue that she didn't understand what she was signing, that her mother had manipulated her, the same story she had told me at the restaurant, but it sounded hollow when she was in front of a judge with mountains of evidence against her. I didn't even have to say much. Frederick did all the work. At the end of the hearing, before the judge made his decision, I leaned forward and told Amber quietly, "Sign the papers now, or spend the next few years in prison for fraud. You choose." I think she finally understood there was no way out. She signed everything right there, without getting a penny from me. The divorce was finalized like 6 months ago. I heard later, I don't know from where exactly, that Amber and Phyllis reconciled. Apparently, they're living together somewhere, not in the house I paid for because obviously that was part of the deal with Phyllis. She had to return everything if Amber didn't fulfill her part testifying, although in the end she did. I don't know how that relationship works now, how they can live together after the mother basically sold out the daughter for money and a house. But honestly, I don't care. What I do know is that this left me even more damaged than the divorce with Tiffany. Because with Tiffany, at least there was something real at the beginning, I think. But with Amber, there was never anything. Every kiss, every "I love you," every moment I thought we were building something together, it was all a lie from day one. And that's something I have to live with now. My lawyer, Frederick, tells me I should try dating again, meet new people, that not everyone is like this. But I don't know if I can. I don't know if I'll ever be able to trust someone enough to let them into my life again. Sometimes I think about signs I missed, things I should have noticed. Like when Amber suggested the prenup. Should I have wondered why she was making it so easy? Or when her mother moved in with us so quickly after the wedding, should I have seen that as a red flag? And I was the perfect target. A rich man with trauma from past relationships, desperate to believe someone could love him for who he was and not for what he had. The company is still doing well. At least that wasn't affected by all this personal disaster. I focus on work most of the time. It's safer, more predictable. Numbers don't lie. Contracts don't betray you if you read them well. And money, even though it caused all this problem, at least is honest about what it is. It doesn't pretend to be love when it's just interest. I guess I should be grateful I got out of this without losing everything, because it easily could have been much worse. If Amber had waited longer before showing her true intentions, if they had been more careful about hiding those clauses, I could have ended up in a legal battle for years and lost half of everything I've built. But I can't help feeling bitter about everything. I'm 52 years old. Theoretically, I should be at a point in my life where things are stable, where I've learned from my mistakes, where I know how to navigate relationships. But here I am, lonelier than ever, more distrustful than ever, and with no real desire to try again. My friends tell me time heals everything, that eventually I'm going to get over this, but I already went through this with Tiffany and thought I had gotten over it, and look how I ended up. The last time I saw Amber was in court that day. When we left the building, she was standing outside smoking a cigarette, something I had never seen her do during all the time we were together. Another thing she apparently hid. She looked at me when I passed by, and for a second I thought she was going to say something, maybe one last attempt at manipulation or maybe an insult, but she didn't say anything. She just looked at me with this empty expression, like there was nothing left inside, and I kept walking. Sometimes I wonder if she feels any remorse for what she did, if at any point during our marriage there was something genuine on her part, or if everything, absolutely everything, was an act. I'll probably never know, and I guess it doesn't matter. What's done is done. All I can do now is move forward, protect myself better, and accept that maybe I'm destined to be alone. It's not the happy ending people want to hear. It's not the story where the guy learns to trust again and finds true love. It's just the reality of what was left, after two people decided my money was worth more than any kind of human decency. And there you have it. That's my story. That's the reason why when someone asks me if I believe in love, I don't know what to answer anymore. Because yes, I believe love exists. I've seen couples that work, that are happy. But I also know there are people like Amber and Phyllis in the world, people who see other humans as nothing more than financial opportunities. And when you have money, you can never be completely sure which category the person in front of you falls into. And that, at the end of the day, is what pisses me off the most about all of this.